With San Francisco entering this season, arguably one of the most important pieces of the puzzle is their 11th overall pick in Mykel Williams, and recently Trent Williams met with the media saying he has the genetic makeup to be a superstar as a defensive lineman. And while Williams did miss minicamp with some hamstring tightness, every single time he has been out there, he's looked like one of the most explosive defensive linemen, and his size is imposing to say the least. Despite being only 20 years of age, for instance, he came in at 6'5", weighing 260 pounds at the combine, and he also has long arms, coming in at 34 3/8 inches, so he has the ability to put them up in the quarterback's throwing lanes and bat down passes. He's also a perfect fit for Robert Saleh and Chris Kaceric's defensive line that prioritizes a defensive lineman's ability to get up the field. At Georgia, he was really used as like a read and react type of player, but moving into San Francisco, he'll have the ability to use all of his athleticism to his advantage. That's because Chris Kaceric's wide 9 defensive front lines up the defensive ends wider than you would normally expect and really prioritizes creating one-on-one matchups with less athletic tackles. Kaceric also preaches a philosophy of pinning your ears back and finding your way into the backfield to create a negative play for the offense, rather than just reading, reacting, and hoping to create just a minimal gain. While this is an aggressive playing style, if you have players like Mykel Williams and Nick Bosa out there, they can execute at a high level. Another important fact in Chris Kaceric's defense with Mykel Williams entering is his versatility he offers. In the past for Kaceric's defensive line, we've seen players like Charles Omenihu or even a player like Eric Armstead play early downs first and second on the outside and then slide inwards on NASCAR packages to rush the quarterback. And this does appear how San Francisco is planning to use Mykel Williams headed into the season, because on first and second down, he can really defend the run, something he was excellent at Georgia. And then on third down, Williams can slide over to the defensive tackle spot where he does an excellent job of running stunts on the defensive line or just exposing less athletic guards. And when you think of what San Francisco's NASCAR package actually will be, one of their more elite pass rushers will most likely get a one-on-one matchup, whether that be Nick Bosa, Mykel Williams, Bryce Huff, or on the interior, they could have players out there like Alfred Collins, Yetur Gross-Matos, or maybe their 4th round pick, CJ West out of Indiana, who I think will probably be the next version of DJ Jones for this team. Maybe more importantly for Mykel Williams entering San Francisco though than his ability to put pressure on the quarterback is his ability to stop the run. At his career at Georgia, for instance, more than 30% of his tackles were tackles for loss, really highlighting his ability to diagnose run plays and then bring the back down for a loss. But to really highlight just how dominant Mykel Williams is as a defensive lineman, I did want to break down some of his film up to this point to really show how it would be effectively used in San Francisco's defensive line. Initially, as I alluded to earlier, he's going to be great in NASCAR packages lining up in this defensive tackle role, especially when Chris Kaceric pulls out stunts like Georgia did here. You can see how his athleticism is way too much for 75 to handle. He's lunging at him, and eventually, Mykel Williams gets a sack, fumble, and fumble recovery all on one play. Now with Mykel Williams lined up in their more traditional defensive end role, here going against this tight end, he shows off his unique blend of power and length. You can see how he's able to get full extension on this tight end and then just walks him into the backfield, nearly once again getting the sack on this quarterback. In a similar way here, I want to focus on Mykel Williams' power. With this offensive lineman attempting to engage with him, he does a nice job of jabbing him with his left hand, and you can see how this really disrupts his entire stance and eventually it causes him to collapse into the backfield. And while Williams once again didn't register a stat on this play outside of a pressure, it does speed up the quarterback's processing and affects the game, I think, in a tremendous way. The final aspect of Williams I want to touch on in his pass rush before moving on to his run defense is just how active his hands are throughout the play and how hot his motor runs. You'll never see him give up on the play. Like here, for instance, initially, he just is beating up on this tight end. And even with him faced against an offensive tackle as well, he's able to beat him and gets his hands up on this play, ultimately breaking up this pass. Even with all this potential Williams shows off in his pass rush, he's a much better run defender at this point in his career. Specifically, he does an excellent job, like on this play, reading these little read options. You'll rarely see him trigger on the wrong man, and once he does identify the ball carrier, he does an excellent job thanks to his closing burst of bringing him down, often in the backfield. Like I was mentioning, 30%, actually above 30% of his tackles during his time at Georgia were tackles for loss. Williams also has excellent sideline to sideline ability. Like here, he initially is wrong with his read, but he's able to make up for it because of his athleticism. And in a similar way he shows off great power against the pass, he also shows off great power against the run, routinely being able to split double teams, and he rarely gets driven down the field. He stacks up offensive linemen and then often stops the running back for a loss. Even with all these positives though, there are some areas of concern for Mykel Williams' game, with probably the most notable just being his injury history. Last year, he played through an ankle injury he suffered in the season opener, and already this season, he's dealing with hamstring tightness. He's also a pretty inexperienced player, coming in at only 20 years of age, and he only played 3 seasons at Georgia with 18 starts, so he needs to continue to refine his pass rush moves, really adding tools to his repertoire, as well as developing a true pass rush plan. So if your initial bull rush doesn't work, for instance, you can easily transition into another move. I'd also like to see him keep his pads more consistently low, but according to Nick Bosa, he's already absorbing a ton of information and he's excited to work with him this season. So heading into this year, I do envision him having the potential to be the defensive rookie of the year as he plans to be. But ultimately, these are just some of my thoughts on how Mykel Williams dominated his college competition and why I think he's going to dominate the NFL competition. And I'd like to hear your thoughts down below about him as a player, and it would also mean a ton to me if you could like and subscribe. And as always, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.